Saint Colette, or Nicolette as she was sometimes known, was a religious reformer who founded 17 Franciscan convents and brought many others back to their original rule, despite much opposition and abuse. She traveled throughout France, Savoy, Burgundy, Flanders, and Spain, spreading her message. One branch of the Poor Clares is known as the Colettines in her honor. Colette's parents were nearly 60 years old when she was born in 1381 in Picardy, France. She was named Nicolette in honor of Saint Nicholas of Myra. Her family and friends called Nicole Colette, a derivative of Saint Nicholas. Colette received a primary education and then lived at home almost as a solitary, praying and doing manual work. She was known as a sweet, hard-working, quiet child. Colette was attracted to religious life from the time she was a child, and she let nothing stand in her way. By the time she was 17, both her parents had died, leaving her in the care of the abbot of Corbie. She remained a hermit for 4 years as she embraced the Third Order of Saint Francis of Assisi. She received many consolations from heaven. But on the other hand, she also experienced severe temptations. God had destined Saint Colette for something extraordinary. She desired to reintroduce the strict observance of the rule of Saint Clare, which many convents of Poor Clares then observed in a modified form. While Colette was an anchoress, a kind of hermit who was walled into a cell which had as its only opening a grilled window into a church. One day, she had a vision of Saint Francis begging Colette be given for the reform of the nuns and friars of his order. When she was unsure about following the vision, she was struck blind for 3 days and mute for another 3 days. She took these trials as a sign that she needed to follow Saint Francis's bidding and agreed to set up the order. When the friar came to her room the next day, Colette had the door of her room torn down, a sign that her solitude was over and her work begun. Colette's first reports to reform convents met vigorous opposition. Then she sought the approval of the Avignon Pope, Benedict XIII, who professed her as a Poor Clare and put her in charge of all convents she would reform. He also appointed Henry de Beaume to assist her. Thus equipped, she launched her reform in 1410 with the Poor Clares at Besançon. She opened her first monastery at Besançon in an almost abandoned house of urbanist Poor Clares. From there, her reform spread to Ausone, Poligny, Ghent, Heidelberg, Amiens, Pont-à-Mousson, Lorraine, and other communities of the Poor Clares. She founded 18 monasteries of her reform during her lifetime. Her reform prescribed extreme poverty, going barefoot, and the observance of perpetual fasting and abstinence. Like Francis and Clare, Colette devoted herself to Christ crucified, spending every Friday meditating on the Passion. She is said to have miraculously received a piece of the cross, which she gave to Saint Vincent Ferrer when he came to visit her. Colette also developed a reform among the Franciscan friars, known as the Colettines. These friars formed a unique branch of the Order of the Friars Minor. Colette, as a follower of St. Francis of Assisi, had a great love of animals. Saint Colette was known for her miracles. A local man's wife had just given birth to a stillborn baby, and grieving, he wrapped the baby and took it to the priest for baptism. The priest refused to baptize a dead baby and sent him to the nuns. He arrived at St. Colette's house. St. Colette took off her veil and wrapped it around the baby, and told him to take the baby back to the priest. When he got the baby to the priest, the baby was crying and alive. The priest baptized the baby. This is the reason she is the patron saint of those who want to conceive a baby, and why she is a patron saint of expectant mothers. On another occasion, Colette was on her way to see the Pope when she arrived at the home of a friend. His wife was in labor, and she was in grave danger. Colette immediately went to a nearby chapel and started praying for her. The mother successfully delivered, and the family felt the life was owed to Colette's prayers. Later on, that baby joined as a sister in Colette's convent and became her biographer. One day, while in a state of ecstasy after receiving Holy Communion, Saint Colette foretold the date of her own death. She died of natural causes on March 6, 1447, in Belgium. She was 66 years old. A branch of the Poor Clares is still known today as the Colettine Sisters. She was canonized in 1807, and her feast day is March 6th. Saint Colette, you followed your heart and worked to make your vision a reality, even though many others opposed your work. Help us to persevere in the face of challenges and to always follow God's will for us, even when it seems impossible to do. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.